Let's get the week started right, everybody, as we welcome you on into OneSoccer today. Annie Petrillo, Gareth Wheeler, Oliver Platt with you. We have a lot to touch on today, gentlemen. We have the national teams to talk about. Can you believe just a few weeks away from the next round of World Cup qualifiers? We're going to get into CPL action, MLS, and there's one guy in particular we've been keeping our eye on for a while, ever since he wowed us at the Olympic qualifiers in March. You know I'm talking about Tajon Buchanan. Ollie, there was a bit of a message that he put out. We always suspected that he would be going to Europe. In fact, you guys had heard about him going to the Belgian league. What is he? Is he in first class over there? I mean, he's on a plane. And we know that there have been transfer rumors swirling around him. Ollie, what's the latest on Tajon Buchanan and Europe?
We think he's headed over the Atlantic. Our understanding is that he's on a flight to Belgium, and the expectation is that he's pretty close at this point to signing for Club Brugge, who are the champions of Belgium, and that move may be in its final stages now and just down to the little details like a medical. So that's pretty exciting for Tajon Buchanan and obviously the Canadian men's national team as well. The big question now, and this is one we don't know the answer to yet, is when exactly is he going to go? You would think that Club Brugge, being a team that is going to play in the Champions League group stage this year, if they're spending this amount of money that's been reported on Tajon Buchanan, you would think that they would want him in the door straight away and playing in those Champions League group stage games. Obviously, from New England's perspective, they're trying to win a Supporters' Shield, go on an MLS Cup run this season. They want to keep him until the end of the season and let him go in the January window. So we'll see what happens there, but it does look like a move is pretty imminent now.
Gareth, is this a good situation for Tajon? Everything else kind of aside, and I get it, it's so true, both these clubs and what they'd be thinking about having a player like that in the lineup. But what about him? Is this a good move for him?
I think so. I think this is the ideal spot. We kind of said that when the rumors started percolating a couple weeks ago and Club Brugge was part of the equation. You want to go step by step. You don't want to take it too fast. I know that he was linked to some bigger clubs, but you want to make sure right now that you're playing. First and foremost, the player needs to play. This is a situation that he should be able to play. What's interesting about Bruges as well, they do play a very similar style that the Canadian men's national team does. They use out-and-out fullbacks bombing down the field. Buchanan can play that role. He can play further up the field, so that club, based on the way they play, will take full advantage of the versatility of the player as well. So I think this is just about the perfect stop. And from a business perspective, Ollie, this is the thing as well. You want to make that first transfer to a European club. You're just on that stage. You're in front of big European clubs on a regular basis. Then you make your big money move, right? Then a more significant transfer comes your way. That's exactly the path that Jonathan David took going to Belgium as well. I think it's smart for the player in terms of their development, and it's smart business as well.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I'm not going to sit here and say I wouldn't have loved to have seen him in the Bundesliga or the Premier League straight away. I think he might be ready for that, the way he's playing for New England right now, but there's a lot of logic to a move like this. Like Will said, you know, it's a stepping stone potentially. It's a very good club, don't get me wrong, Club Brugge, and he'll play Champions League football there, so that's going to be an immediate, you know, step up and challenge for him, as well as obviously trying to win a league title in Belgium. But it is the kind of club that gets looked at and watched by, you know, top clubs in France and England and Italy, Spain, and so on and so forth. So there is going to be a shop window and a platform there for Tajon Buchanan to move on to bigger and better things, and it is a nice way to introduce yourself to Europe, right? To get settled in a league that's maybe a bit more forgiving, a bit more, you know, is at your level. He's probably already played at an equivalent level in MLS, so he should have no issues adjusting to domestic play in Belgium.
And you know that what little furry head is popping up over there, Gareth? Hi, Reese.
My dog wants to get on camera. My dog is the only person that likes to be on camera more than me.
It's exciting news.
Mine's sleeping
Reese
over
is
here.
Like, Buchanan's going where? Yeah.
Well, she's a huge fan of Buchanan, and she also wants to see him in action September 2nd, because we're 10 days away from the start of the third and final round of World Cup qualifying for 2022. That's at BMO Field. OneSoccer is going to be there, folks. We're going to bring you all the action as well. But, Ollie, if you're John Herdman, what is keeping you up at night?
It's this three-game window, right? And it's not just a problem for John Herdman in Canada. It's going to be a problem, I think, for a lot of coaches, national team coaches all over the world, is how are they going to handle playing 3 games in the space of about a week? It's going to be very, very difficult. And you would think that there's going to be clubs, prodding and poking and then trying to have a bit of influence in terms of how many minutes their players are playing, and particularly big clubs like Bayern Munich and with Alphonso Davies, obviously. So I think that's going to be something that John Herdman's going to have to plan out very meticulously. He's going to have to, assess what the priorities are in terms of where you want to use your best players if there is minutes restrictions on them. Theoretically, Herdman can do what he wants because these are FIFA dates and, official World Cup matches. So there's nothing the clubs technically can do. But we know that they can exert a lot of influence. They can make your life very difficult in the future. Maybe a player suddenly develops a mysterious muscle injury before the next international break because you didn't do what they wanted you to do at this international break, So there's a lot of things that Herdman's going to kind of have to manage and deal with. And I think that's going to be the big challenge is how you kind of rotate the team and get players the right minutes load during a very, very busy schedule.
Yeah, that's the most difficult part. Still travel. Nothing's easy during these COVID times either. He won't experience the headaches that some of the South American teams are, some of the African nations are dealing with now with red-listed countries. But there are still restrictions in place. If certain players aren't vaccinated, are vaccinated, there's all sorts of intangibles and discussions and work that needs to be done behind the scenes in order for things to move smoothly. Hopefully most of that is taken care of by now. And like Ollie said, it's the quick turnaround between games. It's going to be absolutely ridiculous to the point where you might want to intentionally not play all your best players in your first game and have them available for your second game or your third game. Not saying for these particular series, but I mean, future series where there's going to be more significant travel, there's really going to be something for all these managers to consider.
It has been quite the last few years for Canada Soccer, right? In particular on the men's side with a lot of these breakout stars. I mean, Alphonso Davies has already been on the map for a few years. Jonathan David and winning the title with Lille and that transferring over to the Canadian national team as well. Just finished talking about Tajon Buchanan. If you were to look into your crystal ball, Gareth, who do you think has the potential to be the next breakout star for the Maple Leaf?
It's such a tough question. Because at what level? I mean, Buchanan's still a 22-year-old, and now we're looking at a crop of 16, 17, 18-year-olds that are coming through. So I'm going to pick one of them who's that young, who's 18, and who played with Buchanan at the under-23s. That's Lucas Diaz. He scored on the weekend for Sporting Lisbon, their B team. He's still playing with them as an 18-year-old. I like what he did in short glimpses. He's a player that can certainly do some damage and catches the eye and also plays a position for our men's national team that maybe there isn't, a deep player pool of players that can play that attacking midfield role. So as long as things go to plan, he continues to progress overseas, and then he does at the senior level decide to play for Canada, I think that he is the makings of a breakout player.
Yeah, it's a difficult question to answer because the players who have already broken out are so young, right? Like Davies is still 20 and Jonathan David is 21. So you're going to the next group, which, like you said, Wheels, is like 17, 18-year-olds. We know who's talented, but in terms of projecting who's going to be an actual, fully fledged national team player is very, very difficult. One player I do like a lot, and I think he's overcome, some really difficult circumstances this year and played well through them, is Ralph Priso. I think he's a really talented player in central midfield. He gives you a lot of things that you look for as a coach in terms of the athleticism, the ability on the ball, the ability to really be kind of an all-round holding midfield player and versatile in that way. I think will take him a long way. So he's one I think will be a regular part of the national team in future years.
Excited to keep your eye on the young talent, that's for sure.